Hi, 7th graders. Here I am in my geeky math shirt. This is something you'll get to in high school. It's called the imaginary number. So this is I. 2 to the third means 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. This is a symbol you'll get in high school that's called the summation or sum. And you guys know this one is pi. So this is I ate some pie and it was delicious. Okay, so we are all set with the mean, median, mode, and statistics and probability, and we're going to be moving into some angles and shape stuff. First, I want to remind you that there are three types of angles. There's right angles that are 90 degrees, so those are ones that look like an L. We have acute angles. They are smaller than 90 degrees. Smaller than 90. I like to think of them as the cute little angles. And then obtuse angles are bigger than 90. So I'll just write over here. So anything over 90, even 91 degrees would be considered obtuse all the way up to 120, 130. When we name the angles, we're going to use three letters. They should be connected, so order matters. So first, find a right angle. Let's use that one right there. So what would be the name of that? I wouldn't want to call it ADE because that's not how it's connected. ADE would be some kind of angle up here. So instead, I'm going to call it DAE or EAD. Order doesn't really matter as long as they're connected. And then this is our angle symbol that we're going to use. Okay, can you find an acute angle somewhere in here? So an acute angle, why don't we use this one up here? So that would be angle CAG. And again, order doesn't matter. So if you wanted to call it GAC, that would be the same thing. And then lastly, let's get an obtuse angle. Now, one of the skills we need to get as people who working with these drawings, I could very easily use this one, GAD. GAD is definitely a nice big obtuse angle, but we also have to be able to find the ones that go through other lines. So let's use this right here. This is FAD. And then I'm just going to ignore that one line right there in the middle and just ignore that. And it's this space here. So that's definitely bigger than a 90. Okay, so we have a few relationships that we talk about here in 7th grade. The first is adjacent. That just means that they are next to each other. And beyond that, it doesn't really tell us anything. So BAC is next to CAD. That's nice, they're next to, that's all I know. Vertical angles are going to start with these X's, and they are the ones across from each other. So either that way, or could be the up and down. And what I'm going to know about those is that they are equal. I call those the kissing angles, because if we draw them right, they look like two fish that are kissing. They're only touching right. Sorry, with my fingers, it's a little hard to do the fishes here. They're only touching right here at the lips here at and otherwise they're not touching at all. They're across from each other. We also have angles on a line. So here's my line. And here are the two angles that are on that line, and they add up to 180. We got a nice big word for that. That is supplementary. And then we have angles at a point. So there's one point, and then all these angles go all the way around. All the way around would be 360 degrees. Complementary angles are two that make 90 degrees. They add up together. So in this case, we have a 30 and a 60 that add up. It could be like a 45 and a 45. And supplementary add up to 180 degrees. So in a complete sentence, we're going to describe the relevant angle relationships in this diagram. We're going to write an equation for the angle relationship and solve for x, confirming your answer by measuring. We won't be able to do that last piece. So what I notice here is that I have a line. So these, actually, let me see if I can just type this in a lot faster. These angles are on a line, they will add up to 180 degrees. So if I make my equation, I'm going to write that this x, and notice here that it's got this curvy piece to it. So it's saying that x is all of this. I'm just going to ignore this line in the middle here. So this x and this 22 have to add up to 180 degrees. To solve something, I do the opposite. So the opposite of adding 22 is minusing 22. And x is 158 degrees. Two lines meet at a point that is also the vertex of an angle. Set up and solve an appropriate equation for x and y. Okay, so I notice this one is a 90 because it has that little square in the corner. I notice x is all of this. I notice y is this here, is just, I don't know how to mark it there, is just this piece. Here's 16, and then I don't know what that piece is over there. So let's start with y. Please notice that that top piece of the y shows a right angle right there. So I know that y and 16 are going to make a right angle of 90. So if I just subtract that 16, that'll tell me what y is. The x is, let's see, what would be a nice way to get that one? Let me clear out this stuff here. I know this top piece is 90, so I would just have to figure out what this is down here, and that is going to be 16. So in that case, I'm going to be adding 90 and 16 to get my x, which is 100. Okay, two lines meet at a point that is also the endpoint of a ray. Set up and solve the appropriate equations. What I'm going to notice is that I've got a straight line there. Actually, no, let's not notice that. Let's notice this x. I've got that x there, so these two are vertical. Two angles across from each other are vertical. So if this one is an x, this one is going to be an x also. Now I'm going to notice that it's on a straight line, and I've got this 55, this y, and this x. So 55 plus y plus x is going to make 180 degrees. Two lines meet at a point that is also the endpoint of two rays. Set up and solve the appropriate equations for m and n. Okay, so let's do m. Notice please that we have a flat line here, so all of these are going to add up to m. So first I have a 90 in the corner, I've got a 43, and I've got an m is going to make 180. So an equation like this, first I would add those two, and then I'm going to solve for it. When you solve for it, you're doing the opposite. So I'm going to minus that 133, and my missing angle is going to be 47. If I was to solve for n, I could do kind of the same idea. I'm going to go this way though and use that flat line. So I've got a 38, a 43. I just found out that m is 47, and an n are going to make 180. So I'm going to add up 38 plus 43 plus 47, and that makes 128. To solve it, I'm going to subtract that 128 from both sides, and that is going to leave 52. Okay, so let's take it back a notch here. There are three things that I need you to come away from this knowing what to do. So when you see an X and you've got the kissing angles across from each other, I know that they are the same. The vocab word for us is going to be vertical, and as soon as you see that, you know the other one is a 61. There's no math involved, they are just equal to each other. When you see a flat line like this, and two angles or even more angles than that, I know they are going to add up to 180. So I could take my 180, take away the 120 that's up there, and that would tell me that this one has to be 60. A nice way to check these is that I can see this one's obtuse and it's 120. I can see this one's acute. It should be smaller than 90, and 60 is definitely smaller. And then also I need to be able to recognize these right angles and know that they make 90. So this 90 minus that 76 is going to leave 14 for that missing angle in there. So this is kind of what your homework's going to look like. It's just going to have some pictures and some question marks in the spots, and it's your job to figure out what they are. So take a moment and see if you can remember the process. So if they are across from each other, I know they are vertical and they are the same. If I see this right angle, I know they're going to make 90. So I'm going to subtract from 90. If I see a straight line, I'm going to subtract from 180 and see what's left. Now this one, I'm going to ignore this piece over here, and I'm going to see the straight line, and these two add up to 180. I'm just going to take off that 113 and get the 67. So the important thing for you to remember here, across from each other is the same. This L shape makes 90, a flat line makes 180.